Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me. It's Louisa Tannermunson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm here with another Let Me Take a Look at Your Chart show, where I look at the charts of 3 people who have all expressed an interest in having a little bit of a deep dive into their birth charts. Now, as you may know, if you've been following the show, or if you've watched similar shows before, you might realize that often when people volunteer their charts, that there's some kind of uniting factor. There's always something that's kind of going on. And I also try to look at it from the perspective of what's coming up in this week ahead. And in this week ahead, on Monday, we've got Mars going into the sign of Virgo. And on Tuesday, we've actually got Mercury going into the sign of Leo. So these are 2 personal planets. The personal planets that we consider are the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So I'm going to be paying a bit more attention to the personal planets and what they're connected to and the dynamic that they have in all the charts that we're looking at today. Before we get going, let's just take a look at the chat room and say hello. So I know we've got a fair few people watching. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh my God, there's all these names. I hope I haven't forgotten somebody. If I've got miscommunication, then please forgive me. So the first message we've got is, hi everyone, I'm probably going to watch it on catch up. No worries, Penny. It's lovely that you've joined us. We've also got Sunny Wolf. Hello, my love. I know it must have been quite an interesting time recently for you. And feel free to share anything in the chat if you want. I would like to have a little look at your chart again, actually. I haven't got it with me right at this moment, but I know that you've had quite an interesting time, and you've had a birthday as well. And that always changes things. We've got April Edwards here. Hello, happy to have this to watch with a storm going through. Well, I hope that's all okay. April, now that reminds me, am I looking at, I can't remember if I said I was looking at your chart this week or next week, but I have to say, I haven't got it with me in front of me. I've got 3 charts. So I may, if I've promised you, I'm really, really sorry. And please forgive me, and I'll do it soon. By the way, I'm actually changing the show format as of next week. So I'm going to be doing it so it's not just forecasts, but it's also a bit of chat, a little bit of celebrity or what's in the news at the moment from an astrology perspective, and also a bit of chit chat from Mr. M, who does like to talk about all things new age. But I'm also going to do 2 shows a week. So it's not just going to be on Sunday. We're also going to have a Tuesday night show. And then if it grows, we might even add a 3rd date. So yeah, I will get to your charts, I promise. We've got Regina K here, about to storm here as well. I'm in Florida. Where are you, April? So we've got a bit of chit chat going on. Greetings from the beautiful Pacific Northwest of the US. Cindy, are you away at the moment? April saying, I'm in New Jersey. I can't do the accent. Oh, phew. I didn't promise it to you. Thank you. I'm a bit relieved. And then we've got Tim Freestone also joining us. Hi, you all from Texas. Again, I shouldn't really attempt to do any kind of accents. So anyway, let us know in the chats if there's a theme you'd like me to tie in as well, because it's always interesting. I always think whoever comes in at any point, it's like it's a co-creation. You know, we're all working on these things together. Everyone's lolling me, which is very sweet. Bless you all. How lovely you are. I'll be honest, I'm not usually like caught off guard so much, but we have had quite a busy time. We've had, it's like a birthday season in our household this weekend, and so we've had lots of things to celebrate, and we've got some good friends over, and yeah, I've let go of my stuff a little bit. Regina's saying, curious about my Sun Pluto opposition. Thank you. That will be something that comes up. Interestingly, we've got an opposition between Mercury and Pluto tomorrow, so that's also you know, like another personal planet with Pluto. So I will touch on that as well. Sunny saying, I'd love that. I did ask for a full chart for me and Hen Dog, but must have got lost. What a week. I'm emotionally exhausted after birthday events. Yes, I'm not surprised. I will, let's talk about me doing a full chart for you and Hen. I'd absolutely love to do that. So, right, let's crack on then. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bring on the first chart. And again, these aren't charts. Cindy's chart I've looked at before, but the other 2 charts are new to me. So let's bring them on. First one we've got is Tanya B, who was born 20th of March 1981 at 11:09 p.m. from Yarram in Australia. And I'm just making that a little bit smaller. She's asking me to have a look at her second house, which is here, which you can see here. So second house, about money, because the second house is all about our personal resources. I also think, and I'm the first to hold my hand up to this, I think astrologers have set the bar low, a little bit too low for the second house, because there's so much emphasis put on the money and resources side of things. And I think there are other things that have great value in our lives. And also, I think our attitudes about how we value ourselves are also captured in the second house. Now, I've not heard that many astrologers talk in those terms, but I will definitely have a look at it in terms of money for you, Tanya. And you're also asking me to have a look at the 10th house. And you've put it really beautifully to look at career and legacy. And legacy isn't a word I use very often, but when I heard that, when I was reading out your message, I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. Yes. I always think of it as the place where you stand up. It's a place that you get on your own 2 feet and you stand up and you make your way in the world. And it's about what are you bringing to this world and how are you doing it out there? And so you saying it feels like you're at a bit of a standstill. How do I find if I've got any hidden gifts and how do I monetize those gifts? So yeah, let's have a look at that. So the first thing that I notice about Tanya's chart, let's just see that everything is all okay. Yeah, in the chat room. Good. So she's got Capricorn rising, which many of you will know. The ruler of Capricorn is Saturn. Now, Saturn is also the ruler or one of the rulers of Aquarius. So here's the sign of Aquarius. Now, it just so happens that Saturn is the ruler of her ascendant, but also because her second house with the house system that I'm using, it starts in the sign of Capricorn. It could have started in the sign of Aquarius, in fact, but it's actually in the sign of Capricorn. But both of these cusps or doorways into the houses are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is very important in terms of Tanya's body and her image and how people first experience her. And also in terms of her money and how she sees herself. So Saturn is the important planet to read here in terms of where is Saturn, and Saturn's up here at 6 degrees 57 in the sign of Libra in the 10th house. Now, you might notice, and this is where I first went, ooh, but tried not to show it. But yeah, she's got this exact conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter, which comes around every 11 or so years. So, it's not a frequent thing. It doesn't just happen overnight. And to find these at the same degree, at 6 degrees in the sign of Libra is really quite interesting. Now, this is in Libra, it's an air sign. Now, one of the things that I'm connecting to already is the fact that I know that Pluto is dilly-dallying around here at the moment. He went into Aquarius a little earlier this year and he's backing off. But if you see, Pluto is already in Tanya's second house. Now, wherever Pluto goes, Pluto creates a little bit of havoc. We often change our positions on things and we often feel a massive pushback. It's almost like as you're trying to control something, life is coming back and saying, oh, no, you're pushing too hard now. I'm going to give you a bit of equal and opposite force. And so Pluto often floors us, in fact. It's not actually equal and opposite. It's almost like like you're tiny here and there's this great big mountain of strength, and Pluto challenges often seem so much bigger than we can actually conceive of. So this is quite a bit of a challenge for Tanya, having Pluto coming through this area of her chart. But Pluto is already applying into a trine with her ruling planet. Now, that's actually quite beneficial. Trines, these like blue energy connectors, these long blues, they show where we have a certain synchronicity, a certain talent, a certain ease in our life, where things are going well. And, Saturn and Pluto aren't really known for being beneficial planets necessarily. They're the benefits we get from Saturn and Pluto often come with a bit of a sting. They often come with a big shove, and also a lot of hard earned learning. It's not so easy, like, you know, Jupiter. When we tend to learn through a Jupiter transit, we often have a bit of an easier time of it. But yeah, Pluto's already kind of coming into an alignment. He's already in a week trying to Saturn and Jupiter here in the 10th house. We've also got Tanya's South Node here, which is also in a trine to these. Now, the South Node is very much about the karma we arrived with, or things that we're already good at. The North Node shows the things we kind of struggle with, and what we're really learning in this lifetime. And so Tanya's North Node in the 8th is, you know, she's learning about shared resources, and seeing, as I've said, how you value yourself and your resources in the 2nd house. In the 8th house, which is opposite, which is about other people's money, it's also other people's values, how they value you as well. So one of the challenges for Tanya in this lifetime is to work out money, and also work out how her money fits into the grand scheme of things with everybody else's money, and also how other people value her. It's quite tough. But she's almost come in with this feeling of resilience, and this feeling of, actually, I do know I'm valuable. I do know that I'm skilled. I like the fact that when she asked me, she wrote it as if she has the implied knowledge that she does have hidden skills. That's great, because some people say, oh, I don't know if I've got anything to offer. But, you know, Tanya knows that she's got something to offer. So that's great. So she's come in with that. Other things I think are important to feature in this, before I kind of sum up what I see coming up for her. I really like this here, this lovely connection down here in the 4th house. We've got Venus in a conjunction with the Sun, and also in a conjunction with Mars. Now, some people talk about when planets are really too close to the Sun, that they're not as effective. I'm not entirely sure that I would go with that completely. I always like to I like to look more at the positive blending of these characteristics. Now, her Sun is right in the last degree of Pisces. That's not known for being very, very reliable. You know, the 29th degree is kind of breaking down the pattern of Pisces. So if I was to interpret this, I would say her personality, she's got this like Capricorn rising, which is very much saying, you know, she does want to be quite straightforward, and does want to be quite progressive. I don't mean like progressive in terms of politics necessarily, but, you know, she wants to see a practical application for things. She wants to do things at a pace, and she's quite practical at pacing herself in the right way. You know, she's not going to dream a big dream and then not achieve it. You know, what's the point of that? So she's really quite balanced there. And then she's got this very dreamy Sun in a conjunction with a very dreamy and very exalted Venus. You know, so she's got this beautiful creativity, this beautiful intuition, a very sort of divine way of expressing herself. And then she's also got this really quite spunky Mars in the sign of Aries, which is giving her quite a lot of confidence. And all of these together, I think she's got quite the skill set. I would say she's got really good levels of empathy, and a really good understanding and compassion, and also a drive to do something with it. And this is all in the 4th house. It's interesting because she's also, if you've got quite the eagle eye, you'll notice she's also born at the time of the full moon, because the moon is in almost exact opposition to her Sun, which does make things a little bit more challenging. So her moon is also in opposition to Mars, which can lead her to have less of a sense of humor when things go wrong. You know, she might fly off the handle a little bit. And with this ascendant ruled by Saturn, she'll have extremely high standards. So woe betide anyone that doesn't fulfill what they're meant to, what they say they're going to. That must be a really tough thing for you, Tanya. And also the moon's in opposition to Venus, which can bring up all sorts of it's not a terrible aspect. In fact, I always think Venus, when she's in oppositions and squares, aren't necessarily unkind, but sometimes it's I think you can love too much. And sometimes the imbalance of that can be a little bit difficult. So you can get a little bit more disappointed when people aren't quite up to scratch. So there's this really big dynamic going on, which I suspect will really play out in her material world. Now, a lot of astrologers would say that these two houses represent the parents, and most astrologers say that the 10th house is definitely the mum's field and the 4th house is definitely the dad's. I think the 10th house is more about the most dominant parent, the most outward facing the parent. And my experience has also shown me that the 4th house is also about the most introverted and the most private parent. But seeing the sun and the moon in opposition is almost implying that there is a different tack for both parents. And seeing the moon, which is traditionally about the mom, and the sun, which is traditionally about the dad, like the male and the female, I would say that her mum is probably up here in the 10th and her dad is down here, but they are showing in opposition. And so probably one of the challenges that Tanya has had, alongside having really high expectations for herself and her own behavior, is I think she's probably felt quite pulled apart from her parents, either because they can't agree on their shared values. The mum here is very, very close. She's technically in a conjunction with Jupiter and just technically out of the conjunction with Saturn, but let's say they've got it. I would say whoever's really showing up in her career side in the 10th house has super high expectations and is a very sort of professional person and somebody that can achieve a lot, and also somebody that can be trusted and seem to hold a vision of the big world. And then the other parent is dealing with the internal things. So if you remember at the start, I said I was going to focus more on the internal planets or the personal planets. So the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And then the outer planets, which are more about civilization and your generation that you belong to. But Jupiter and Saturn are kind of in the middle. They're not personal planets. They're not really outer planets. They're a little bit, I think of them as connecting planets, connecting and bringing the messages from the unconscious mind of humanity into a context that we can understand. So it's interesting that the external parent here has got the outer consciousness, and the internal parent also has the inner consciousness. And so I think you've got two very different archetypes. And my question to you is, Tanya, how have you integrated this in your life? Have you been able to integrate it? What have the challenges been in integrating it? Because you might find it very difficult to get balance at home versus in your career. Whilst, you've picked up this pattern of wanting to be very present at home, to be very loving and also very direct, and also to be able to coach everyone at home and support them and to have endless amounts of empathy, and also a bit of kind of let's do this, quite active. And then you've got this quite emotional outward life, filled with ideas of achievement, expansion, and then also transformation here. It's huge. And I'm not really seeing the connecting point, like normally this group of planets and this group of planets, there's usually, here's a softer one. So they're both connected. Both sets of planets are connected to Uranus. Now, interestingly, Uranus is the other rule. Oh no, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, but this is ruled by Saturn. So to me, I see that there's an integration point for Tanya that will help her get the balance at home that she needs, and also the excellence and the sort of appreciation and gratitude and the legacy feeling that she really craves. And it's coming from Uranus, and it's in the 11th house. Flipping heck, it's at 000 degrees. It is literally just in the sign of Sagittarius. I can't remember how many times I've seen something at 000 degrees like that. That's highly unusual. So, I mean, her Uranus and her sun and her moon, they're almost quite unstable, because, I mean, this, like Uranus here is in the sign of Sagittarius, but when something just goes into a sign, it usually needs a day or two to get comfortable in its new place before it starts functioning normally. And here, like the moon, it's not void, of course, which is another phrase, which some of you watching will know. But, you know, her moon here is starting to break down. Her sun is definitely breaking down. They're not quite carrying their usual patterns. So, you know, she's got this full moon pattern and also this need for freedom, which is what Uranus represents. So it's freedom, it's difference, it's could be computers and downloads and the web and things like that, because Uranus is very much about channeling. Now, are we doing it on an emotional, spiritual level, or are we doing it on the internet? Are we creating material that people can share and stuff? Now, her Uranus is in the 11th house. The 11th house, I think, is the perfect place for social media and being some form of influencer, like having quite a following, building something up. You know, this is quite good. And she's also got Juno here, which is about dedication and commitment. So I would say that Tanya is actually quite good at creating a sense of community and creating a sense of cohesion, and is a trusted member. She shows up well, and she really does show up well. So I think that's one opportunity to explore. Because if she was exploring her Uranus, like it might be like, how can people find more freedom? How can people find more truth? How can, I don't know if any of these things like resonate with you, but if you've got a flavor for originality, truth, something that's different, that goes against the grain, which from your perspective, like given your strong Capricorn leaning, I would say that your ability to make something unusual quite commonplace is really quite magical. You know, one of the things that stopped me from really wanting to explore astrology for a long time, I went down the hypnotherapy route because it looked more normal and less likely to create resistance in my family. So I think you have an ability to make things that aren't very mainstream appear more mainstream, and I think that's something that you could exploit and do very well at. In terms of other hidden treasures, I really like this area here, which is very creative. Now, I also notice, and I don't want to go too much into this because I've got the other two charts to look at, but you'll notice here that the sign of Scorpio and the sign of Taurus, they don't actually have one of these cusps starting in their sign. So like her 5th house and her 11th house, like they like the cusps don't go like normally they would go Virgo, Libra, then there'd be a cusp in Scorpio, a cusp in Sagittarius. You know, it kind of skips a sign. And so her Scorpio energy and also her Taurus energy, which also doesn't have a cusp in it, they're kind of hanging. And this is something called interception. And I think Stephen Forrest was somebody who spoke about this quite a lot. And so often the Scorpio-based planets, so this one here, so Juno, the dwarf planet or asteroid, I can't remember what her classification is. I think it's probably asteroid. She takes more, even though she's a Scorpio, she refers more to the Libra. So she's a lot more into partnership and dedication than it might imply. And also Chiron here and Pallas Athena and the Vertex have got much more of an Aries leaning, which is where the doorway to this 5th area has come in. These are areas of real creativity, but because they're not so easy to translate because of this cusp here and this one here, it might take her a bit longer to get her unique flavor. But I would say when you start to develop whatever is unusual and make the unusual thing more regular, more understandable, I would say that you want to be quite Aries in your approach. And your creativity, the things you're self-creating, I would say it would need to heal something for people. You know, whatever your offering is, if it's somehow healing and feels really positive, that would be good. And if it has very direct patterns, if people can observe what it is that you're doing and understand it, if it's really specific and precise, I think that'd be useful. And in terms of the way you commit to your projects and people and the people you're co-creating with, I think you need to do it in a very Libran way, which is very partnership oriented. So I hope there's a few little clues there. Sorry I couldn't talk much more about that. Pluto going through this is going to really turn this on its side and on its head for quite some time. And you've got Jupiter and Uranus here. I will say next year, around the 21st of April, around that time, both Jupiter and Uranus are going to be here right over your vertex, which is what the universe is wanting you to focus on. So it does feel like you're birthing something quite big, and potentially something that could take off quite quickly. So I would absolutely say follow your passion. Whatever you're passionate about is the big thing. And if it can be expressed in more of an Aries way, whatever you're birthing will be a lot more helpful, a lot more beneficial. But if you want me to look deeper, then please do connect with me. You can organize a reading or whatever works best for you. But I can probably add a lot more to that another time. So anyway, let's move on to the next one, which is actually I'll do Cindy next. Sorry, Cindy, I spelt your name wrong. That's a typo. I'm working too fast and not checking things. So let's just see if there's any more questions coming in. Regina, thank you just for holding out a little bit longer while I look at Cindy. Really good question, Tanya. Where did that go? Can't see that. So there must be something else that I missed something that about that. But anyway, Marjorie V. Cohen has joined us. Hello, Marjorie. I don't think I've ever seen you before in here, so welcome. It's nice to have you here. And Regina's saying, not at all, 3 very complex charts. Thank you. That's very sweet. Okay, so let's look at Cindy right now. So Cindy's saying, I'm going through a bit of a cocooning and hermit phase. I'm hoping to go away around September time, and I'm really wanting to know if it's good to stay away for a good year. I've also been experimenting a bit more and getting back into tarot and wondering if I should launch a business around it, and just seeing what wants to come up. Now, interestingly, we've got another Capricorn ascendant. So like I said, there's usually a shared pattern or two. So Cindy's got her ascendant in the sign of Capricorn. She's also got her sun in the sign of Capricorn. This is another one that's got one of these exact conjunctions between a planet. So we got the sun here in an exact conjunction with Ceres, dwarf planet Ceres, which is all about like nurturing and looking after the planet and being like an earth mother. So like Cindy's got it in spades here, literally spades, like for digging the earth. We could say that Cindy's very grounded. We've also got here, this is a bit unusual. I think you'll all agree if you're used to looking at charts, we've got Uranus right here on the descendant. Hands up who's seen this before, or if you've seen this in somebody else's chart. What does that normally mean? I'll be interested to see what comes up. It's not always easy to manage this one. I'll reveal all in a second. I'd love to see what your answers are. We've also got Neptune very close to the midheaven, which I can see could cause a few problems or two. So it's interesting. Like Cindy's got a couple of these outers. So we've got obviously Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. She's got 2 of these outer planets on 2 of her angles. That's quite a challenge, because these outer planets are very much about they're all about the sort of outer consciousness that all of humanity is kind of taking on board. And the big question is, how do you integrate like the sensation of being part of a generation? How do you identify with that? How do you make it work for you? So here, like she's got the Neptune in Libra energy, which I always think of as being this kind of idealism, this like absolute idealism with the idea of love and partnership. And Neptune, I don't think is that realistic in the sign of Libra. And it's in a trine with Mars. Now, that helps it, that helps the energy of Neptune be sort of integrated. But it's not necessarily easy. She's also got Neptune in a trine with Venus. Again, we've got this kind of huge kind of unconditional love, which Neptune does represent. It's like unconditional love, creativity, and all things love. And undefined. Neptune is like a higher octave of love. This could be the connection that we're all seeking in this very idealistic Libra sign, connected to Venus. It's like this idealism of what love represents, connected to this very personalized idea of love in the sign of Aquarius, which by its very nature is not very personal. Like Venus in Uranus isn't that sort of like personal about love. It's kind of like, oh, I want to be loving with people, like everyone, we should all love each other. And I do happen to know that Cindy does have a bit of a hippie vibe, don't you, Cindy? And I love that about you. And then Uranus, which is like one of the rulers of Aquarius, so it has a definite kind of Aquarian feel, is right here on this part of the descendant. And that can make things a little bit tricky in love, and very much about what Cindy's saying. I'm very shocked at how close my and Tanya's horizon lines are. Oh, I didn't even check the degrees. Let me just have a look. So we had 5 and 1. Yeah, they're very close, aren't they? Just 4 degrees apart. I would just say there's no accidents. So where's Tanya's midheaven? Hers is in the sign of Virgo, which I didn't actually talk about, funnily enough, but Cindy's is in the sign of Libra. Yeah, I can't like comment on everything, unfortunately, in such a short space of time, but yeah, it's fascinating, all these different links. Now, anyway, Cindy didn't want to know about this. She really wanted to explore the idea of why she's been in a bit of a cocoon, and also how she might move forwards over this next year, and whether a trip away could be quite beneficial for her. And also the idea of following up one of her passions, which right now is about sort of tarot, and quite exciting. What I would absolutely say, I mean, I know Cindy's been through a lot of change over these last few years. Like Pluto, in fact, around the time of the start of the COVID phenomenon, Pluto was just about here, and has since gone over her Sun and Ceres. Like the whole idea of looking after herself and looking after other people, and bringing in a new system, like helping be part of the solution for planet Earth and humanity. Like Pluto will have brought in a lot of disruption, a lot of trauma, and a lot of ups and downs, and probably will have shifted a lot of Cindy's views. I know when I had Pluto going over my Sun, flipping heck, it knocked me for 6, and it took quite a few years for everything to kind of get back into place. But that for me was in my mid-20s, and this would have been happening like Cindy's born a whole like 24 years before me. So this has been happening very much at a different stage in Cindy's life, where she's seen a lot of change, gone through a lot of ups and downs. So I would imagine that she has made some significant big changes, and now Pluto is really coming into this area, and from January will be in the sign of Aquarius. So a lot of her biggest changes are already gone. So my first comment is, sure, if you want to go to that place you're talking about and stay there for a year, why not? Because some of the pressure's already off. You already know what it's like to move long distance. You've already practiced it. You've pretty much had a dress rehearsal for it. You know what to do in terms of your beautiful dog JC, and how you can manage that whole process. So I don't see that the next move, like for a short period of time of a year, I don't see that would create as much distraction and as much difficulty. It would be much easier for you to achieve. I also see that the angle to do with the home here, the IC, is in the sign of Aries. And that is ruled by Mars. Now, right now, Mars it's been going through this area of Cindy's chart, which is all about other people's values and things. And very soon it's going to be in this big area here, the 9th house. And so let me just check how long it's going to be in Cindy's 9th house for. So when does it get to 24 degrees in the sign of Libra? Let's just have a look at that. Cindy's saying, indeed, old hippie here, bless you. You're magnificent. So 24 degrees in the sign of Libra. Well, that takes you, Cindy, to the beginning of October. So Mars, the planet to do with you changing home and moving around, like not being so much in your home. Mars is actually going to be in the 9th house, which is all about having an adventure and expanding your awareness. And so from, where's that? 12 degrees in the sign of Virgo. Any time from the end of July, like Mars is coming into this area from the end of July and is here until the end of November. So I would say this is a perfect time for you to really think about moving. Now, one thing I would warn you against, your 9th house is ruled by Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. The ruling planet of Virgo is Mercury. So we also need to take into consideration if there's a Mercury retrograde going on in that time. And it's retrograde from the 24th of August until the 16th of September. So what I would say is when you're going to your new destination, I would wait until, if I was in your shoes, especially seeing as you'll probably be moving with your dog and she is beloved, I would wait until after the 16th of September for 2 reasons. First of all, Venus is also retrograde during the summer and she goes direct on the 3rd or 4th of September. So I'd wait until she's direct. I would wait until Mercury's direct on the 16th, but I would actually wait until Mercury gets out of the retrograde shadow. So let me just work that out for you. And I'll tell you what it means. So 21 degrees in the sign of Virgo. Right. So when Mercury, this is even more interesting now. So when Mercury goes retrograde on the 24th of August, you might need a pen for this. Mercury is right over this south node, which is really picking up on some old thoughts and feelings, probably about old adventures and things like that. So it feels like during this Mercury retrograde, you're reminded of all your little trips out, all your adventures, all the amazing places you've been to, but also probably some of the things that have happened. And given that Venus has also been retrograde during this point, that is also making us think about the times we valued a bit more than others. And it's brought on this kind of feeling of what's the word? Nostalgia. We're not completely viewing things from a clear heart. We've got lots of old stuff going around in our head, and I don't think that necessarily means that we're going to plan everything in a very orderly way. And I know obviously that I've seen some of your packing before. In fact, I know that you need to be quite orderly in the way you do things. So I would wait until they're gone. Now, when is Mercury going to cross this point? So Mercury's going retrograde, and he stops at 8 degrees. So he goes up here, then he stops, then he goes back to here over a few weeks. And so the shadow is the time it takes for him to go direct again until he passes this point. So I would actually, if I was in your shoes, Cindy, I might wait until the end of September before you leave on your journey. So you could choose to go on the 16th or like give it a day, say after the 17th when Mercury is direct again. But if you wait until the 30th of September, Mercury not only is out of his retrograde, but is completely out of the shadow. It feels like you're stepping forwards again without any of this old business. So I really get the feeling. So if you've already booked your ticket, and if this resonates, you might choose to just change the dates if that's possible. So yeah, I would consider that. Now, in terms of the tarot that you're considering taking up and thinking about starting, a new little bit of income, I would absolutely say this is something that I think is kind of interesting from your position right now. Is we've got the North Node here, which is changing signs next week on Monday the 17th. And it's moving out of the sign of Taurus and into the sign of Aries. And when it does that, it's encouraging you to recognize it's time to bring yourself forwards. It's time for you to be a lot more sovereign in what you're about. And the South Node is coming out of Scorpio and it's going into the sign of Libra. And really the feeling is that all is well. You know, you've already got this amazing ability to partner with people. And so it's okay to move forwards in a sovereign way and to go on a journey on your own, whilst knowing that you partner with people very easily and that you've got this really collaborative way of being. It's like you've already got that good grace with people. You've got this great relationship, this great rapport. So I would absolutely consider picking up those skills. The South Node also shows us our old skills that we've forgotten about in the past. So to me, the fact that the South Node is coming up real close to your midheaven, which is, as Tanya puts it, the place of career and legacy, I would say, Cindy, that's a really great idea, because if you start to do that, approximately we can, say that the node moves, approximately 1 degree a month. So in a matter of 6 months or so, the South Node's going to be on your midheaven. I really see that as you picking up something from the past and that you're making a new legacy for yourself. So I think that fits in. I think that'd be a great thing to do in this new location. I think it's a really quite magnificent time to do that. And I'm really excited for you. Also, let me not forget that Uranus is very close to your moon, really close to your moon, and is going to be on your moon. This is also very interesting, actually. I could have led with that a little bit sooner. But Uranus coming onto the moon does show quite a lot of emotional toing and froing, and a whole new need and level for freedom. It's really saying, you need a lot more. You need to get out. You need to challenge yourself a lot more. And where things are staying the same, it's like so boring. Now, Uranus isn't retrograde yet, but Uranus gets to, get this, 23 degrees, which is where your moon is. And then it goes retrograde, goes backwards. So you'll be going on your trip when Uranus is already retrograde. So it gets you to the point of saying, okay, I need something new. I really need something new. And then you're kind of going back. It's almost like you acknowledge you need this change and this disruption, and it's giving you the chance to turn the feeling of the disruption. Like Uranus is also an external planet. It's an outer planet. So you might also be connecting to the feeling of disruption in the world. And it's like coming to you in the sign, in your moon sign, which is usually very stable, I have to say, with your Capricorn rising, your Capricorn sun, and then your moon in Taurus, you're like Mrs. Earth. And yet right now at this time, with Pluto, so having been so close to your sun, and then Uranus right on your moon, this is probably a really good decade where you'll look back and go, yeah, okay, I really needed to change there, and be really grateful and thankful for it. So I would absolutely go for it, Cindy. I would not hesitate. I absolutely would say have tons of fun with it as well. So I hope that's helpful. I really do. Let's just have a sip of coffee. One sec. And to my last chart. And also back to this chat room. So indeed, I'm an old hippie here. And Cindy's also saying, oddly, I was just last week, thinking about delaying my departure until October. Well, I think that's actually very wise. I think that'd be very helpful. Incidentally, Uranus is going retrograde. You might be able to hear Mr. M chatting in the background there. He's quite loud, isn't he? Can you hear him? He's so used to presenting that he can't talk without projecting his voice. Right. So Uranus is going retrograde until the 27th of January next year. So it feels like the first part of your journey is very much about examining your relationship to disruption and all things new and all things innovative and all things a bit shocking. And so in particular, if this place you're thinking of going to is one that you don't really know that well and that's going to surprise and delight you and you'll learn lots of things about a new culture, then that's super good. And so it's kind of just after your birthday it goes direct again, and then it feels like you're integrating all those new things that you've been learning about. So it might feel a bit odd and exciting until, you know, the end of January, and then it's going to just feel like normal part of your life. So I would absolutely go for it. Anyway, let's have a look at the and I've got a lovely smile. You're so welcome. Right, finally, let's have a look at Regina's chart. And okay, so I've asked Regina what she'd like me to have a look at, and she's saying art maybe. I paint. Wonder if I'll ever make a go of it. But honestly, good wherever it leads you. And thank you for taking the time. Well, that's very polite and kind of you. Thank you so much. So let's bring up your chart now, Regina. And I wonder how many patterns you can see from the previous two. And I haven't really analysed this yet, so I can't really talk from any experience. Love? Can you shut the door, please? Oh, crikey, they're so loud. I don't know why he just waved to me a minute ago. What a weirdo. A lovely weirdo. Right, okay. So let's have a look at Regina's chart, which is for the 24th of July, 1962 at 12:55 p.m. Is that right? Let me just double check that. Yeah, 12:55 p.m. Chicago, Illinois. Okay, so the first thing that I notice about Regina's chart is that her ascendant is, if I'm not mistaken, is right on Cindy's midheaven. And then her IC, which could just have been in this, like right at the end of Capricorn, like she could have had a Capricorn angle like the other two ladies. But this is very fascinating. Let me just make that really big. We've got her IC, like the angle to do with her home, and she's got Pluto right on it right now. Okay, it's not quite on it, but it's very, very close. So the angle to do with her home is 051. And earlier this year on, was it the 13th of March? Let me just double check. It was quite a while ago, that's for sure. Who knows? It went into the sign of Aquarius, and then it started to retrograde out. Now, how far into Aquarius did it go? It got to 022, so it almost got there, but then went retrograde. And now it's back here, and it will start moving forwards again, I think, from October. Yeah. From the 10th of October, it will start moving forwards over Regina's IC. Now, the IC is a really sensitive part of the chart. It represents a home. It represents our stability. It represents one or both of the parents. Again, I would consider the most inward parent, and the one that had more authority in the home. It's also a place where all our behaviors come from because of our upbringing. And so it really does talk about our childhood and what we learned during that time. Now, she's got this very sensitive, we've got, again, somebody else who's got a planet and something in exactly the same area, the same degree. So we've got Saturn in a conjunction with the South Node at 8 degrees in the place of her home. So this is something that she'll want to watch out for. It's not going to happen anytime soon, thankfully, because Pluto works and moves so slowly. I'm just quickly flicking ahead in my ephemeris. 5 years, 4 years. Yeah, even in 2025, so 2.5 years, let's say, Pluto's only got to 2 degrees 41. So it's going to take quite a while before Pluto meets Saturn here, but it's coming into this area, and Pluto brings disruption, and it forces us to think about our home very differently. The chances are Regina's already felt this coming on for quite some time. It's very difficult to not feel it, really. You know, if you're an intuitive person, which I'm pretty sure Regina is, for a whole bunch of reasons. I'll share those with you in a minute. But yeah, this is an area of deep transformation, really deep transformation. This is going to really change something about Regina in the way that she relates at home, and most likely change some of her behaviors and beliefs about herself that she's had since childhood. It's a really quite sort of deep and strong Pluto experience. And I wonder how many people that are watching here today are aware that Pluto's gone over one of their angles or over their sun. I know Cindy is, because, you know, Pluto has gone over her sun in recent times. I've had Pluto go over my ascendant, Mercury, Mars, nodes, Sun, Mars, Sun, and Venus, all within sort of like 12 years of each other. It was pretty intense. I went through a lot of change during that time. So yeah, this is a big thing. She's also, which is a lot more kind of right now, she's also got Saturn here coming in close to her Jupiter at 11 degrees 53 in the sign of Pisces. Funnily enough, in the same degree as my Jupiter in Pisces, and also her Chiron at 10 degrees in the sign of Pisces. Now, this is a very unusual combination, Chiron and Jupiter together in the sign of Pisces. In fact, we just only this year had Chiron and Jupiter together in the sign of Aries. I did a big video about it. It's a time when a lot of things change. There's usually a lot of disaster in the year where these two come together. So, and I know I did a bit of a historical recce on it. So I know her year of birth would have had quite a few sort of natural disasters and things like that. It really does bring on a lot of hurt and a magnification of it, because, you know, Jupiter is such an expansive planet. Now, her Chiron, you know, is about hurts and wounds and things like that, but it's also about where we get mastery. And so I would say with Regina's chart, you know, where she has been hurt, she's got this opportunity to grow through it. Like Jupiter often shows us where we become a coach, or where we have a mentor that works with us. And so I really see a lot of mentorship coming together for Regina, especially in the sign of Pisces, is where we're very, very psychic and very intuitive. Now, having Saturn coming over this is a chance for her to get really serious about her skills. Now, she was asking about art, which is not surprising, because she's got her ascendant in the sign of Libra. Libra is known for being the most creative sign. It's ruled by Venus. So her ruling planet is here, Venus, in the 11th house, which is about co-creation rather than creating as an artist down here. It's more about co-creating, like working on projects together. But her Libran rising is very much about design and seeing beauty in things, and then being able to create beauty of her own. And then with Jupiter in the 5th house, the 5th house is known as being this place of creativity and passion. It's where we birth things. It's where we're always birthing ourselves and birthing new aspects of ourselves. And so her 5th house is all about creating something that outlives herself, you know, like a piece of artwork, for instance, or a beautiful piece of music, or a poem, or children. You know, it's this whole idea of giving birth to something that you're really passionate about. And so it's interesting, she's got Chiron and Jupiter here in this 5th house. I would say if you are thinking of doing something artistic, I would absolutely suggest that your artwork, or the USP, your unique selling point, to use sales speech, I would say it should be about healing. Like, I don't know if you do artwork that has a healing vibration, that has a healing intention. Maybe you write or somehow paint the intention into your work, and then you work on top of it or around it. Maybe you help other people come to their point in healing, like their healing intention, and then you coach them and help them to express themselves in a healing way. I don't know if any of that comes, like resonates, but I would absolutely imagine that what you're doing is co-created, and it's deeply powerful with this Venus and Pluto conjunction. Again, it's a personal planet with one of these external planets. So, she's got this Pluto energy of transformation and destruction, and yet she's able to bring it into a loving place. So I absolutely think that she can work with people who are maybe in a place of inner denial, or not in a place of self-care, but in a place of self-denial, and she can help them like love themselves and bring their skills, bring their artistry, and with her coaching and guidance, I think she can bring it to the fore. I actually see you running classes or something more than doing the art yourself. I think that would be more powerful, but I don't doubt for one moment that you couldn't, I think you could make it. I think Saturn often going through the 5th is a time when we put some effort, put some determination, and we start believing in ourselves, and we really dedicate ourselves to something quite big. The only problem with that is Saturn, sometimes when it goes through this area, it can sometimes make what you're doing that you do with passion, it can sometimes make it a bit boring and formulaic. So you do need to watch that. But I would say this is actually quite a stabilizing factor. It's giving you the determination to actually do it. I mean, you might find, especially with the Libra rising or the Libra ascendant, you might find that you've been trying to get your artwork perfect all these years. Like, you can't release it into the world because it's not quite perfect. And yet there is this desire to get out there. And this kind of attitude here of Saturn going in your 5th, it will say, okay, you can't really do it perfectly, and actually the whole point is to get it out there. So it's about being very practical about your creative skills. And I think Neptune almost leaving this area of the 5th house is going to make your creations a lot clearer. I think it probably could have brought up lots more mediums, opportunities for you to express your creativity whilst it was there. But I also think it brought some confusion, because it's like, how do you know where to start? How do you know where to push your attentions? Now, there's a lot of other things I want to comment on. In particular, your sun here, right in a conjunction with your midheaven. There is this very strong need for you to show that you can achieve something and stand in the world and say, look, this is actually what I do. So I do see that it's important that you stand for yourself and you stand for your expression. Leo is, the other main creative sign. In fact, Leo is also the traditional ruler of the 5th house. So, and having the sun, which is the ruler of Leo, having the sun, the place of creativity, in a conjunction with the midheaven, really shows a strong need to be known for your creativity. So I see this as being very strong. In fact, Mercury just in 2 days' time is going to be crossing this point. I would say any time one of these personal planets crosses this point, it's going to lead you back into your creativity. And you should probably start noting it, like noting when the moon goes over it and all the personal planets. Of course, with the personal planets, that tends to happen at this time of year. So you might choose, yes, I'm going to be creative, and then plan times when you're releasing your creativity to the world and doing a lot more of it. Now, Pluto is obviously just primed to go into complete opposition with your sun, and also onto the angle to do with your home. So it's really deep. Now, it's the opposite of what happened to Cindy, where she had Pluto on her sun. Now, with Pluto going on your sun, it's like you're dissolving your personality. But here, with Pluto in opposition to your sun, it's like you're dissolving your attachments to what other people think of you, which I think is a little bit more freeing. It's showing that the people in your life are probably trying to hold you in your personality and in who they think they know you as, and yet you feel like you're changing and that they're holding you back. You might also feel that you're more identifying with you in the outer world, whilst the home life and people around the home are really trying to keep you back in this place of safety. So I do think that one of the challenges, which will become more and more apparent, is that it's okay to step outside of your home. It's okay to stand in your own power and stand in your own artistic integrity. It's really okay to do that. It's very strong, in fact. Right now, Mars is on your Uranus. Venus is about to go retrograde very close to your Uranus. And we'll like come back. So this is going to be quite interesting. Venus going through. Venus is like the planet of creativity, or like the sort of creativity that comes from the Venus and the Taurus kind of energy. When she goes retrograde in your 10th house, you might have lots of new creative ideas and fall in love with the whole process again. You've also got Jupiter very close to your moon, showing a kind of loving energy and an expansiveness that you're playing with at the moment. And very much like Cindy, very soon you're going to have the North Node crossing over one of your angles in about 6 months' time. So I really feel that if you can co-create your creativity, so if you can create, like go into creation, but also create something that allows you to help people create. So like maybe workshops that get people talking around art and around emotions. So it becomes like a healing happening. I think that will create a lot more beneficial traction to you, which will help some of these people that want to keep you home and safe. It will actually help people engage with you kind of outside. I think the key here is to involve people, given that the North Node is going to go over your descendant as well, showing this need for partnership. And also your ascendant's going to have the South Node going over the ascendant in 6 months' time. I do think 6 months' time is going to be quite critical for you. I think that will be when things really start to take off, should you get going with it now. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. And let's just see what comments are coming in. So we've got okie dokie. So lol. Regina saying yes. Hoping a good disruption, brought property in the mountains, hoping to retire and move. Well, that's a really good thing. Pluto going over the IC could be a real indication of a home move for sure. Cindy saying intense is a good way to put that. I think that's in terms of Pluto going over the sun. Regina saying, I love this. Art therapy is an interest. Good. I think you'd be very good at it. Good. I need a kick in the pants with this. Oh my God, yes. I always blamed my Venus in Virgo for that. Yeah, I can see that. Hallelujah. Well, that's good. So, and then, this is in, oh my goodness. Hubby is Aqua 1 degree. So hubby's sun, I'm guessing, is at 1 degree in the sign of Aquarius. He really likes me to stay safe. Sigh. So let me just bring this back onto the screen. And let's just, if I was, oh my goodness. If I was to do a synastry chart right now, synastry is where you're comparing one person's chart to another person's chart. We would have her husband in the outer wheel. Okay. So her chart would be in the middle and his chart would be on the outer wheel. Now his sun would be right here. Now, first of all, his sun is showing up in opposition to her sun. So the suns are in opposition, which actually does often show up in partners. So you often get partners that are born 6 months apart, which is another way of saying the same thing. Their birthdays are pretty much 6 months apart, possibly even to the day. And it creates a fascination and an irritation at the same time, because you're coming at life from a different element, and also you're usually coming from the same quality. So for instance, like Regina's sun in Leo is a fixed sign. It's a fixed fire sign. So, she'll be very fixed in what she wants to do, and fiery in it. Like she'll know with certainty. And yet he will be coming from a fixed air position, because Aquarius and Leo are both fixed signs. So he'll be coming from a fixed air sign. So it's like, intellectually, I know this is true. And it's like fixed ideas, fixed dogma to her fixed inspiration. It's interesting. It creates a massive fascination. And at the same time as Pluto is kind of helping her to destroy her, like dissolve, not destroy, but like give her a different sense of who she is, like, so some of her old patterns about what she holds about herself, she's changing her context. At the same time that's happening, Pluto is right over his sun, showing a real difference in him. And it's also coinciding because this is going over her IC, which is about the place you live in and the place you stay safe in. She's moving to the mountains, hopefully. I think that's really good that you two are both planning a move. It'd be interesting to see if your hubby has got an angle very, very close to his or your sun and with this Pluto patterning. Because when Pluto comes in, if you don't use the energy of it, I always think it uses you. So it's great that you're using this energy, both of you, to move house, because then, of course, when you move house, it changes your identity somewhat because it changes your story. And that's much easier than you staying put and then feeling this energy changing you internally, but there's no apparent reason for it, like a house move. So I think you're very, very wise. It's brilliant timing. I don't suppose it will go smoothly, but because it's such a big move, it's going to disrupt a lot of things for you. And in that, how you see yourself is going to change. I'm really excited for it. I really am excited. And you've obviously got into a very deep relationship for the right reasons, like to grow and to transform and to love and support each other. So it's really quite exciting. And of course, interestingly, the North Node right now is it's not at the beginning of a fixed sign, but it's right at the end of a fixed sign. So there's another fixed pattern changing right now as well. So this is all big stuff. So anyway, let's just come out of that. And then the last the last comment from Regina is cracking up, so spot on. So I'm really pleased about that. Anyway, I'm going to bid you all farewell. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you'd like me to look at your chart in a future show, then please do join my online community. The address I've forgotten to put in, but it's www.SKOOL, that's SKOOL.com/feel good astrology. I believe it's in the notes below on this video. And also, please be aware, like from next week, it's going to become part chart interpretation and also chat show as well, which is a lot more fun for me and hopefully a lot more fun for you, a lot more discussion, and we can have lots of fun with it. And I'm going to be doing it twice a week. So I hope I'll see you again real soon. And let's just see, it looks like there's a few more comments coming. I'm excited. Cindy saying muito bem, which is very good in Portuguese. And also thank you so much. So thank you for joining me. Catch you another time. If you do want to book a reading, go to feelgoodastrology.com and you'll see all my offers. Anyway, lots of love. Bye for now.